Chicken eggs, the most commonly eaten egg on the planet, by a very large margin. Over 1 trillion are consumed every year. That number is almost impossible to picture. They come in white, brown, and even blue-green depending on the breed of chicken, but the shell color has no effect on taste. The yolk, however, does change. A pale yellow yolk usually means the chicken ate grain. A deep orange yolk means it had access to pasture and insects. That orange yolk has more nutrients, more omega-3, more vitamin D, more lutein. The chicken egg works in more ways than almost any other food. It can be fried, poached, boiled, scrambled, baked, or used to bind and lift everything from cakes to pasta to sauces. Almost every cuisine on Earth has its own version of the egg. Coming to duck eggs. Larger than a chicken egg and richer. The yolk takes up more space inside the shell, and the whites are thicker. The flavor is noticeably stronger, more buttery, more egg-like, if that makes sense. Duck eggs are popular across Southeast Asia, the UK, and parts of Eastern Europe. In China, they are salted or preserved in ways the chicken egg rarely is. Because the whites are denser, duck eggs produce baked goods with a richer texture and a slightly higher rise. Many pastry chefs prefer them for this reason. Now quail eggs. Small, spotted, and immediately recognizable. Each one is about 1/5 the size of a standard chicken egg. The flavor is mild and slightly gamey. Not dramatically different from a chicken egg, but the texture is notably creamier. In France, they are served as amuse-bouche. In South America, they are sold boiled from street carts. Despite their size, quail eggs contain proportionally more vitamins and minerals than chicken eggs, including nearly double the iron per gram. Coming over to goose eggs. Much bigger than a chicken egg, roughly the size of a large fist. One goose egg is about the equivalent of 3 chicken eggs. The flavor is rich and full. The yolk is noticeably larger and produces a deeper taste than most people expect the first time they try one. Goose eggs are seasonal. Geese only lay in spring, which means they are only available for a few weeks each year in most places. In rural Europe and parts of Asia, goose eggs are a springtime treat. They are hard-boiled, fried, or used in baking, where their large yolk creates an especially golden, rich crumb. Because of their seasonal availability and limited supply, they tend to be significantly more expensive than chicken eggs when they appear in specialty shops. Now comes turkey eggs. Larger than a chicken egg, slightly speckled. They look like a bigger, heavier version of a quail egg in terms of shell pattern. The flavor is richer and more buttery than a chicken egg, with a creamier yolk and slightly thicker white. Here's the question most people ask. Why don't we eat turkey eggs commercially? The answer is economics. A turkey takes about 7 months to start laying, compared to 5 for a chicken. Turkeys lay fewer eggs per year, roughly 100, versus a chicken's 300. And turkeys need more space. The math does not work for mass production. So turkey eggs remain rare, consumed mainly by people who raise turkeys themselves. Now comes emu eggs, one of the most visually striking eggs in the world. The shell is a deep forest green, almost black, with a rough, pebbled texture that looks carved rather than grown. One emu egg is roughly the equivalent of 10 to 12 chicken eggs. It is large enough to serve a small group on its own. The taste is mild and slightly gamey. The yolk is large and very rich. When scrambled, 1 egg fills a pan. Emu eggs are primarily eaten in Australia, where emus are farmed. Outside Australia, they are considered a novelty and are often sold to collectors as decorative objects because the shells are so visually striking. Getting inside one requires real effort. The shell is significantly thicker and harder than a chicken egg. Now comes ostrich eggs, the largest egg laid by any living bird on Earth. A single ostrich egg can weigh around 1.5 kilograms. That is the equivalent of roughly 24 chicken eggs. The flavor is described as rich and slightly stronger than a chicken egg, with a very large, dense yolk. Cooking one takes time. A hard-boiled ostrich egg takes around 90 minutes. Scrambled, it feeds 8 people comfortably. Ostriches are farmed in Africa, Australia, and parts of the Middle East. The eggs are eaten, but are also widely sold as decorative objects and carved ceremonial items. An ostrich eggshell is strong enough to support the weight of a grown adult standing on it. Now comes salmon roe, large, translucent, bright orange spheres. Each one is firm on the outside and filled with a rich, briny liquid. In Japan, salmon roe is called ikura and appears on sushi, rice bowls, and in bento. It is one of the most familiar types of fish roe in Japanese cuisine. Salmon roe is lightly salted during curing to preserve it and enhance the flavor. Fresh, uncured roe tastes noticeably different, less intense, almost sweet. Now comes caviar. True caviar comes specifically from sturgeon. The word is often used loosely for any fish roe. The most prized varieties, beluga, osetra, sevruga, come from sturgeon in the Caspian and Black Seas. Beluga caviar is the rarest and most expensive. A single kilogram can cost between $7,000 and $25,000, depending on the source and grade. The flavor is delicate and buttery, with a subtle brininess and an almost creamy finish. Wild sturgeon populations collapsed during the 20th century due to overfishing and poaching. Most caviar sold today comes from farmed sturgeon. Now comes Tobiko, the small, vibrant orange eggs that cover the outside of many sushi rolls. They come from flying fish, and they are among the most visually distinctive fish eggs in the world. Each egg is firm and pops cleanly, leaving a mild, salty taste with a subtle sweetness. Tobiko is frequently dyed and flavored. Black Tobiko is colored with squid ink. Green Tobiko uses wasabi. Red Tobiko is made with beet or chili. The flavors change slightly with each version. It is primarily a Japanese ingredient, but has spread globally through sushi culture. Most people who eat sushi have eaten Tobiko without necessarily knowing its name. Now comes century egg, one of the most visually unusual foods on this list. The white turns dark brown or black during curing. The yolk turns gray-green. The whole egg smells strongly of ammonia. Despite the appearance and smell, it is eaten calmly and routinely in China and across much of East Asia. Century eggs are made by curing duck, chicken, or quail eggs in a mixture of clay, ash, salt, quicklime, and rice husks for several weeks to several months. The flavor is complex, salty, pungent, slightly alkaline. The combination of the preserved egg and the warm rice porridge is a classic pairing. Now comes balut, a fertilized duck egg that has been incubated for around 16 to 18 days and then hard-boiled and eaten in the shell. Inside, the partially developed embryo is present soft bones, feathers beginning to form, a visible beak in more developed versions. In the Philippines, where balut is most commonly eaten, the experience is matter-of-fact. It is street food, available at night markets and roadside stalls, eaten with salt and vinegar. Balut is also eaten in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and parts of China. In the Philippines, it is considered a source of protein and a traditional fertility food. Now comes up turtle eggs, soft-shelled, round, and white. Unlike bird eggs, turtle eggs do not have a hard calcium shell. The exterior is leathery and flexible, which allows them to absorb moisture from the sand where they are buried. They are eaten in parts of Southeast Asia, Central America, and some Pacific Island communities. The preparation is simple, boiled, and eaten from the shell with salt and lime. The white does not become solid when cooked the way a chicken egg does. It stays soft and almost liquid. Most sea turtle species are endangered or threatened. The harvest and sale of sea turtle eggs is illegal in many countries under international conservation law. Some communities have legal exceptions for subsistence use. Now comes up ant eggs, specifically the larva and pupa of a large black ant species called Lyomatopum. In Mexico, they are called escamoles. The ants nest deep underground in the roots of agave plants. Harvesting the eggs requires reaching into the nest by hand, which means disturbing thousands of ants. It is not a simple process. The flavor is mild and slightly nutty, described as similar to cottage cheese or butter. They are typically sautéed in butter with epazote, a Mexican herb, and served in tacos or with guacamole. The presentation is simple. The taste is surprisingly gentle. Escamoles are considered a pre-Hispanic delicacy in central Mexico and have been eaten since the time of the Aztecs. Now comes up pheasant egg, small and olive-colored, with a smooth shell and a subtle gloss. Slightly smaller than a chicken egg, pheasants are game birds, and their eggs are seasonal, available only in spring when the birds are laying. This is part of why they remain uncommon in most markets. In the UK, Pheasant eggs appear at specialty food shops and farmers markets in late spring. They are served soft-boiled, often with soldiers' thin toast strips, which is the traditional British presentation. Because pheasants are raised primarily for hunting rather than egg production, the eggs are a byproduct. They are not farmed at scale and are unlikely to ever become widely available.